Thank you for listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, where we have authentic conversations that help cultivate a better understanding of ourselves, our guests, and the world we live in. This podcast is about our guests, getting to know them, their backgrounds, experience, thoughts, and ideas. We really appreciate you listening. Before we introduce our next guest, we'd like to introduce you to a few sponsors that help make this podcast possible. Today's podcast is brought to you by Mountain Mule Transportation, located here in Bozeman, Montana. Mountain Mule is a private SUV and truck service, offering chauffeur services in all of Southwest Montana. Whether it's your next skiing, hunting, or fishing trip, early morning or late night trips to and from Bozeman Airport, as well as weddings and private parties. No matter the occasion, Mountain Mule will get you there safely and on time. To learn more, visit mountain-mule.com and book today. All right, you ready to rock and roll?
Let's do it.
David Baldwin, round two, fresh off the streets of New York.
Mm-hmm. Straight out of Brooklyn.
Welcome to the show.
What's
Good
up,
to be
man?
back.
Welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just got in yesterday. Enjoying your new studio. Excited to see the updated questions you guys have after
34
episodes.
Ooh, watch out, bro.
we have some ground to cover, but since this wasn't an official question yet, I don't even think the name of the podcast was.
No.
What's your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory.
The
You
first.
did ask him this question.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, did I?
I just listened to the podcast recently. So, David, if you answer this incorrectly, we will go back.
You're a liar.
I think I know exactly what it was. And I think
Dude.
it was,
Keep that mic like a fist away from your mouth so we get top quality audio.
I think.
This shit's for real, bro.
It's under your chin now. It's you can turn it. You can pick it.
Oh, wow. You guys.
You can also-
high tech.
Yeah, you can also it'll tell us.
You do whatever you want.
Yeah, there you go.
Look at that.
Get comfortable.
Make sure you're comfortable.
You can lean back. You can sit forward.
We'll start like this.
I'm not even in
a
the picture.
See.
You're in the whole thing. Don't worry.
Earliest
Don't worry.
childhood memory, I believe
Just say what you think it is.
I think it was when running up the stairs and going into our bathroom mirror in the upstairs bathroom and going on the stool and looking in the mirror and actually registering holy shit, this is what I look like. And it was very early in the morning.
You're a
I was,
liar. You're a
brushing my teeth or something like that. That was the first one that I remember right now.
liar. Okay.
What did I say
I
a
don't
year
know.
ago?
I don't. But
I think it was that.
Well, because Foster said, and I totally got what he was saying. He said, "Your memory is funny. Your memory can be funny."
yeah, it can fool you.
Yeah, so you can say, "Did I create that?
Yeah.
Did I think about this question and then create
Yep.
that, or did that happen?"
I remember this well because shortly after that, or I remember a lot of things after that of really looking at mom's face and your face and Becky's face and being I've never really stared at my siblings. They've always been around, they've always been in my life, but never really looked at the different facial features. And I remember first doing that with myself and being holy shit, this is my stream of consciousness, kind of making that connection of, I don't know, who I am.
Mhm.
Kind of understanding the voice in your head versus the actual physical person in front of you. So I was just a really philosophical kid. Sorry.
Did you know all
It's all
those
good.
words? Did you know all those words when you were in
Probably. Nah, we were
my
homeschooled.
my stream of consciousness is flowing.
No. But that's the first thing I remember, from the youngest age, I believe.
All right, that's all we can.
That's all we got. See you later.
We're out of question. All right, so you just ran a marathon.
New York City Marathon, to be exact.
How was it?
It was honestly one of the most impactful experiences I've had. And I thought it was going to be, it's been on my bucket list since 7th grade. I remember I went on a Model UN trip to New York City, and it's
A what?
Model UN, Model United Nations. It's
Hey, bro. Whoa, are you a communist? What? Wait, what
Basically.
is the Model UN?
So my school would do like a mock United Nations thing, and you would pick a country to represent, and you would pick an issue that country had, and kids from all over the world would fly in for this conference. We meet in New York City, and you would propose ideas that these countries would actually apparently bring to the actual United Nations.
What did you were like, yo, dude, like we're about to milk some fucking udders.
If I'm being honest, I don't even remember the country I was representing during this time, because
So you were not representing the U.S.?
No, I was definitely representing a country in South America, I think. But the point was, in 7th grade, going to New York City with your friends was pretty badass.
Yeah.
So that was the priority. And in 7th grade, we didn't really care about issues facing the world, but we got to go to these conferences for 3 days in New York City, and we would sneak out of the conference meetings all the time and go to Starbucks and walk around the city because you had to wear full suit and,
You're like
professional.
So how you would have been like 11 or 12?
Yeah,
It was 12.
Yeah.
No, we were a bit older. Maybe it was when we were in high school. Could have been a bit older, because we were definitely able to go out on our own, and I'm pretty sure we were smoking cigarettes at the time. So it was probably more like 10th grade.
Yeah, because maybe you're like 15. Then.
Yeah.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, because
Like, who's this 10-year-old in a suit in New York City?
Yeah, probably not 7th. Maybe 10th grade makes more sense. I think I was 16 or 17, but it was during the New York City Marathon. And while I'm out there getting Starbucks and not worrying about anything because I'm in high school, we saw the marathon going on. And it genuinely shook me. Like, the whole city was shut down. It was like I got chills the minute I saw it. People were doing some really incredible stuff. And I was like, I'm going to fucking do that one day. Like, very much made a pact. It became part of my bucket list. And so leading up to it, I was like, this is just going to be one day, one quick accomplishment, something I've always wanted to do. But the whole experience was mentally insane. Changed my entire diet, my social habits, my sleeping habits. It got me on track in a lot of ways. And honestly,
all right, let's talk about that.
Which part?
All of it. So, like, first off, congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats on the marathon.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just running, but congrats.
How long did you train for?
6 months about.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about, you mentioned like all these things that it I'm going to infer it improved.
Yes.
So what did it improve?
Well, it was a really humbling experience. Like, I know running, they say, is mostly mental, and I've done a half marathon maybe 8 years in the past with my sister, and that's when I was still in college, and I was not, it was easier then. Like, I was still going out with my friends and would just do my long run, but I didn't really have hangovers then, and didn't really matter what I ate or did. I could just be able to run 10 miles and kind of feel okay. By the time I did the half marathon this time, I got humbled real fucking quick. I didn't bring water for the half marathon. Like, it's, halfway through the training, that's the farthest I'd go. And in my mind, I was like, okay, if this is only half of what I need to run, let's treat this like any old run. We're not going to bring water. We're not going to prepare the route very well. Like, I was not taking it seriously. I was just thinking I could do whatever, By mile 9.
Are you 26?
29.
Fuck. You're 29?
Yeah.
Yeah, bro, you got to bring water. You're getting
I really didn't think I did.
All right, got it. So you're 29.
Mile 9, I had to go into an ice cream shop and ask them for water because I was so dead. And mile 11, I started walking, and I'd never, ever in my life walked on a run.
This is on training runs.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've never had to stop. I was actually listening to the podcast that run. And at mile 11, I had to walk. And at mile 12, I started questioning signing up for the marathon. And 12 and a half, when I started running again and my knee started hurting, I was like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this,
When was this? How long ago?
About 3 months ago.
Okay.
If I was running through New York City and I couldn't walk and I looked down at my phone and I was listening to the Kyle and Tim podcast, I'd probably just throw it all in right there. Like, This is where I'm at. This is it.
The podcast was good. It was distracting. But by this point, when I was failing, I was listening to music because it's all about, like, trying to get out of your head, and it was not good. But I went home.
It's the opposite of what this podcast is about.
I iced my knee. I looked into how to be a better runner and everything. And it was genuinely just like, you need to eat the right things. You need to take this seriously. And I started meeting with a running coach and completely stopped going out most days of the week. Brought down my drinking out.
Like 3 days a week. He stopped going out.
Whatever.
I stopped going out 7 days a week and I went out 5.5.
I'm in my 20s in New York City. Take a break.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're hanging on by a thread in your 20s, though.
Yeah.
What do you got, like 10 months left?
Dude, he's
We
going.
don't talk about that.
Hey, he's going
okay?
for it. Hey, you got to go for it in life.
Yeah.
That's like when you're like 36 and you're in you know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about.
Anyway,
he's going for it right
continue.
now.
So
You're going to get tired in like 5 years. Just trust me.
I'm already getting tired, but that's besides the point. But yeah, it just really kicked my ass into shape, and my diet completely changed. I've had insomnia my whole life. I've had eating issues my whole life. Both of those were fixed by just running 10 miles every few days.
You're fucking
That's
tired
all. Yeah.
and hungry.
And running is a lot of mental. It's a lot of time to spend by yourself and get in your mind and stuff, and it's sort of thinking about what to do next and taking life a little more seriously. And genuinely, I thought I was just going to be running 26.2 miles, but I think I got a lot more out of it.
How often did you run without any music or podcast or noise other than all the noise that's happening in New York City?
Only the marathon was the only time I didn't have something
Okay,
in my
interesting.
ear. But I did a lot of audiobooks, and it actually, the other time I failed running when I did my 18 miles, it was a book that now I don't want to finish because I keep associating that run when I failed at
What
18
book?
miles. It's called Wolf Song.
You should just finish it. Just so you don't have to have that in your back of your mind.
Yeah, that is true. Why don't you just finish it?
I don't know. I listened to it on audio, and when I failed, it was just pissed me off so much, and I just never did. But
Sounds like you need to just get over that and finish it.
I guess. I mean, I did the marathon now, so I don't feel too bitter. But
I know, but you'll just move on. It's like, whatever. I finished the book. It's over.
I don't hold a grudge against it. I think I just have
Doesn't
a
sound
bad
like
taste
it.
in my mouth.
It doesn't sound-
I don't associate it. It's just
But I fucking hate it.
and I won't
it just
finish
pissed
it.
me off.
Out of spite. I won't finish it.
No, I lost interest.
Kyle, tell them about your theory about listening to, or like David Goggins' theory about not listening to anything.
It's not.
I kind of assume
I mean,
that's why
I'm
you're
not going to
asking.
claim that. Yeah, I'm not going to claim the theory. I've done both,
Mm-hmm.
and I've, chosen. I can't speak. I've done I've chosen both at different times. Yeah, there's something about like don't have any music on, and because then you really do have to be with your own thoughts.
Yeah.
Like you're not like, oh, that's an interesting topic. Oh, I never heard of that, because you're listening to a podcast, or you're listening to like pump up music, and then you're not in your own thoughts. So there's something about when you're like a long run, you're like 3 hours in. Yeah, you have weird thoughts.
Yeah.
I say weird. I would say uncomfortable thoughts.
I think you just go down the rabbit hole. Like you just start.
Yeah, you're like, why am I doing this and why that? And and those are good things because you then when you have 3 hours or 4 hours of this kind of stuff, and you're doing it every week, right? You're doing it like, oh, I'm gonna do this exact same thing in 3 days, and then 3 more days, and 3 more days.
Yeah.
You can't get away from the same question that you had 3 weeks ago, and then last week, and the week before. The question's going to come up in your mind again. At least mine, like I find my mind on repeat.
It's interesting you said that. That made me think of 2 things. One, I always set an intention when I'm running, like some problem that I'm going to figure out or something that I'm going to like really deeply think about, because I am someone who is hopelessly addicted to technology at times and get really caught up in work and don't spend a lot of time like by myself. And that was one of the coolest things, setting the intentions.
Well, like, give me some intentions that you were
like figure out the next step I want to do in life, or figure out a bad relationship I'm going through, or think about a conversation that's keeping me up at night and why is it keeping me up and what am I going to work through it. And I don't have something to look at to distract me. And that was really great for me on the runs. But then at the same time, I love like mashup and remixes because it's all about memories. And that's what running is. It's just like distracting yourself and getting out of your head a little bit. And I associate songs to the music festivals I've been to, the people I've met that have saved those songs. And the run is literally like a playlist of like memories going through. So great for the distracting part, but I always start with like, what's my goal? This intention. And that was like therapeutic. And it was something my therapist suggested I do. And I was like, it's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy. You're mixing memories with intention.
Yeah.
Well, have you, either of you gentlemen, ever heard the theory or done like you really think about something like you're saying an intention or something you're going through before you go to bed, and a lot like sometimes you'll wake up with the solution.
I've never heard that.
Oh yeah, and like there's Einstein used to do this when he'd be working on a problem, allegedly.
Is that how you pronounce that?
What?
Einstein or Einstein?
Einstein. I don't know. Einstein. I'm not sure.
But he would like dream on it.
Yeah. So if he had a problem, something he was trying to figure out, he'd go take a nap, and he'd really be thinking about it, and he'd say, you know what, like I'm at a loss for solutions right now. Let me just go take this.
Yeah,
but
he would also do like short naps, right?
Yeah,
like 20 minutes, and he would like do something to like keep him almost like string of consciousness. Oh, there I go back with my string of consciousness.
Yeah, dude, like, you need to fix that mic because like and then coming close. So put it like in front of your face or something.
There,
you can. So you can like pull it towards you.
Yeah, whatever.
Is that better?
I think
it's because I keep looking to the sides.
Or that it's cutting out. But yeah, so it's the same idea that when you go to bed, because have you ever like. I told you that idea that I had a few days ago. I've told both of you. It was as soon as I woke up and I was still in that weird like
you're like halfway.
Yeah, like theta stay phase, whatever it is. But it was like I don't know where it was coming from, but it was like coming from some stream of consciousness. But that's a good idea to do it before a long run.
See, it worries me when you say do it before bed, because as someone with insomnia whose brain doesn't turn off, I feel like I would drive myself a little crazy while trying to wind down, you know?
Yeah.
Like, for me, I'm the type that can't sleep or can't put down a project till I find the solution, so I feel like that could drive me crazy.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how tired you are.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I remember correctly, it's a French saying that has been translated in English is like sleep on it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you have a problem in your life, like don't make an emotional decision today or tomorrow, or I mean tonight. Like sleep on it. And I think it started with like the French saying came out of relationships of like if you get into an argument with your wife or your girlfriend, don't
go to
say
bed
anything
angry or something,
or go to bed angry.
Yeah, I mean that makes more sense to what you're saying. So
that you wake up and you can like resolve it like with a clear mind.
Yeah.
It's a saying, right? So like I think there's all kinds of scenarios where it might be true. Great. That's good advice. It also could be bad advice, right? Like, you know, I don't think you should go to bed angry, but every once in a while you're probably going to. And maybe it's better.
Yeah, the non-scientific theory is that your subconscious has these answers to these questions or has better solutions. This mind that beats your heart and makes your body like is much more intelligent than just your conscious mind. So when you're kind of presenting the problem to it, or just saying like asking questions to it, and then when you go to sleep, like the answers will then appear either. And I'd like this is, like I said, not scientific, but there's something to it to a sense.
Yeah, I think there's something about putting your mind in really stressful situations, your mind and your body, which makes then emotional and like cognitive decisions or situations easier. So meaning if you are training for a marathon, right, versus not training for a marathon. So let's say everything's exactly the same, but you're training for a marathon or you're not. Well, like your mind is going to be under more stress when you're training for a marathon.
Yeah.
And your cognition is going to be under more stress training for a marathon. So when you're not doing that, fucking life's going to be so easy.
That's the crazy thing about completing the marathon too, because now I'm like, there's a lot of like
you have a bunch of free time,
and people get really bad depression after it too, because it's like it's your personality. Like I also was fundraising during it, so I was reaching out to a lot of people and raising money for Free Arts NYC, which is a great organization that helps kids from really broken homes find mentorship. It's like the Big Brother program. And literally spread so much news about that, spread so much news about running it, getting support, everything, and then it just stops.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's genuinely like I built up all this endurance, not only physically, but mentally, and built so much space and realized how much time I have now. And that's where it's like really ready to act on it. Because again, I feel like I have so much energy now. I'm just ready to apply it to something else. Maybe not another marathon though. I would rather do something a little different.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, that's an interesting, but you were going through the list of all the things that this did for you.
Yeah. And well, diet was a huge one because you burn a shit ton of calories when you're running. Sleep completely improved. And social life just, I think one of the biggest discoveries was the mind-body connection. And anything I ate, I could feel it on the next run. And any time I didn't sleep or didn't hydrate properly, I could genuinely feel it and smell it, like even in my sweat when I was running a lot and stuff like that. And I was like, I know exactly why this cramp is happening or this or that. So just made me realize you can be so much more intentional in anything that you're doing and having energy throughout the day. And this was a really extreme way to figure it out, but something that I had never realized. So definitely affected how much I would stay out with friends, what time I would leave from any sort of engagement.
Yeah, because you had to run the next day.
Yeah. And it didn't stop me from having fun. Like I say it to so many of my friends, I did this marathon my way. I didn't have like one necessary coach. I got a lot of advice from people, but I never wanted to run with people because I genuinely, this was on my bucket list and I wanted to do it for me. And I wanted to design that different lifestyle from it. But I think now if I were to do something like this again, it would be with someone else's goals in mind. And like
someone else's goals in mind.
Yeah, like if one of my friends said, hey, I really want to do a marathon, but I don't think I can do it alone, then I would do it again.
Okay.
But for me, this was my big item and I did it. And now I want to do something different or apply it in a different way.
Like what? What do you want to do?
Well, in terms of physical things, it's like a Spartan race or my big one is at some point I want to climb Mount Everest, which I've met a few coaches who have helped a few people do that. And I think that'd be a pretty badass one to add to my list. Definitely going to take some different training and avenues, but
you should learn from Wim Hof.
Who's that?
Smart guy.
Bro. He'll teach you how to do it in bare feet with no shirt on.
I don't need to do that. I just want to do it.
Okay. He's taught like very regular civilians too. Anyway, he teaches you how to breathe, and then he teaches you how vital your breathing is for anything you can do. Yada yada. Anyway.
But is it specific to Mount Everest, or you're just saying
he's just done that?
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
He did it in shorts or something.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I'll send you some links.
His wiener is still like paying for it. I think it's still frostbitten.
Anyway.
Get a sock or something, put it on there.
Yeah, Kyle, what was I was telling him you did the Spartan race out here. What were the details on that one?
Yeah, that was a 13 mile, like it was they call it the Spartan Beast. 13-mile obstacle.
There's obstacles.
With obstacles. That's something that and like a marathon was sick, but 26 is definitely hard on the body in ways that I don't know if it's healthy. I genuinely haven't done the research on that to know if running that when you condition your body is good for you, but half marathon I feel great at. I feel very comfortable. My legs aren't killing after, so I feel like I'd rather perfect that and add in like obstacles or something else to challenge something I'm not good at, because running now I know I can do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a one size fits all, right?
For
like
sure.
A marathon might not be great at 75 years old.
Yeah.
And actually, let me take that back. A marathon at 75 years old might be great. Right? Marathons regularly at 75 years old may not be great. But marathons at a young age is probably fine. And your body's going to get used to it, right? It's like if you do it over and over and over again, if you did like 5 marathons in the next year, which is totally doable, right? Like once you're in that shape, like you just like repeat them.
Yeah. And there's people that do super marathons, like 50 miles.
Ultra.
So the regulars, nothing to them.
Right. So I have a guy that I know that just did 100-miler.
Crazy.
And so you get used to it. Your body will get used to it. Your muscles will get used to it. Your joints will get used to it. So I don't. But anyway, I mean, so you asked for the Spartan race. I think there's a lot of hype around the Spartan race. It is hard. It's not that hard though. I feel like if there's like some weightlifting you need to do. There's some pretty heavy shit objects that you have to pick up
throughout it,
and you have to do them like over and over and over again. So like you'll go through the same kind of obstacle 4 or 5 times in different areas throughout the run. And some of those things are fucking
so it's
heavy.
like a loop.
No, I mean they have some like that.
Yeah,
but I'm saying like there'll be the same kind of obstacle 5 times throughout the run
as you're getting burnt out from using that muscle group and stuff.
Yeah, and so you are pretty beat up by the end of it. Be honest with you, it's like working on a dairy farm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never worked on a dairy farm. How would I know? But yeah, there are definitely some tough obstacles.
See, that's the area that I would say my legs are definitely the things that have endurance, but like upper body strength is my weakness. And I'm like, let's try something that I'm bad at.
Yeah. So
get into that realm of uncomfortability and really questioning if I can do it again. Because those are the moments I remember the most during training, and especially during the race too. Like,
yeah,
I hit my wall around mile 20 and I was questioning a lot of things there too.
Yeah, for sure. I think if you lifted weights in combination with like functional body workouts for 90 days, like very intentionally, you would see a serious difference in your body, your shoulders, your arms, your forearms, right? Like your hands would get stronger. Those kinds of things, like all the things that we don't normally use in normal society, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're working with your hands, right? And so if you trained for, when I say 90 days, like I mean, if you trained for 90 days and you only took, let's say 10 or 12 days off of those 90 days, like totally off, it would be intense.
Yeah.
It
was interesting you mentioned about like the marathon runner at 75. One of the coolest parts of marathon day, I mean, the whole day was absolutely insane. Like New York City, you can say what you want about that place, but come on marathon weekend and you will see the city come together like no other place, I swear. Like
people are loving it.
It's just the best representation of people truly being like, you're doing something amazing. I can't tell you how many little kids I high-fived and how many people would just like look me dead in the eyes and be like, I believe in you. You're going to finish this. Like it brought tears to my eyes many times, and I don't like to cry in public, but I was a weeping baby.
That's awesome.
But on marathon morning, you have to take the subway down to the Staten Island Ferry. On the Staten Island Ferry, you take that over to a bus. You take a bus to the start line to the starting village to the Verrazano Bridge.
So you had to get up at 3 a.m.
Pretty much. But I wanted to do it by myself, so I didn't have anybody to go to these different places with. I saw my mom and her boyfriend right before I got on the Staten Island Ferry and hugged them goodbye, and I was on my own. And I got on the ferry and sat down, and this 83-year-old woman sat next to me and just had the biggest smile on her face and a banana, and she was just like,
I'm doing this too.
She was just like chatting with me, and she said she did the New York City Marathon during COVID for the first time, and it was completely virtual. 83. So she was 81 when she did it 2 years ago, and it was all virtual, and she had to run 26.2 miles around her neighborhood with a tracker on her. She said the neighbors came out and her family cheered her on and stuff, but she did it the year after with New York City behind her back. And she said it was night and day difference. Like it felt like they were literally carrying you through the streets. And I would genuinely say that sentiment was the same. And me and her just sat there on the ferry, and she like held my hand on the way over and was like, I'm so glad to be part of this experience with you. And I was like, this is a fucking cool thing. And it's running, you know? It's so simple, but she inspired the shit out of me. And that was one of the biggest things that I was like, I know I'm going to do this today. Cause like,
she's 83.
She's killing it. Yeah. She's crushing it. She reminded me of my aunt. And I was just like, that's who I'm thinking of while I'm running it today. So it was awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
So since you said everybody came together and was so nice, tell Kyle about the predicament you've been having here since you got here.
It's not a predicament. It's just been catching me off.
For like 24 hours.
I know.
It's just catching me off guard every time we go into the country grocery store here.
Town and country.
Town and country. Walk in, they're like, hey, I'm like, what? I'm not taking anything.
What?
They're just very outgoing and very expressive.
Everybody's
everywhere.
so friendly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a problem?
It's just surprising. You know, I went into the weed store and fell in love with the girl behind the counter, but she was just
Wait, it's not just us? And like you fell in love with her too?
Yeah. But everyone, they keep surprising me because, I mean, New York's not unfriendly, but it's a lot of just like looks and smiles, and nobody really talks to you unless they need something from you.
What can you do for
Do
me?
you hear that statement? Nobody talks to you unless they need something
It's
from
New
you.
York. It doesn't surprise me at all.
I know, but isn't it?
I was in New York for like a week. Nobody even said a word to me.
I know, but he's surprised to hear that people are like, "How's your day?" I'm like,
She was like, how's your Friday going? I was like, are you talking to me? I was like, oh, yeah.
Do we
That's an
know
actual question. Yeah.
Yeah, so it makes sense. It's funny because I think that has changed a lot in the last 5 or 6 years.
Here in Bozeman specifically?
Across the country.
Okay.
I think across the country, for sure here in Bozeman.
Like there's more of it or less?
There's
more.
There's less.
Less, okay.
So like you're saying that like you see it when you're here in Bozeman. I see it a lot less.
Okay.
So when I first moved to Bozeman, I like you'd walk up and down Main Street and people's human interactions were way different than when I moved from San Diego. So
in that,
what do I mean by that?
Like what surprised me?
So when I would, so when I'd walk down the sidewalk in Bozeman, somebody who I don't know. By the way, there's only 2 people on the sidewalk. It's me and somebody else that's 50 yards away. Right now they're 35. Now they're 25. Now they're 20. They would pick their head up and they would speak to you like a animal. Right? They'd speak like a human being. They'd like, hey, how are you? And you're like, I was like, do I know these people? I don't know this person. Who the fuck are you? And I'd be like, oh, hey, I'm well. Thanks. Have a good day.
Yeah.
That used to happen all the time. Every single person you ran into on the sidewalk would say hi. That was in 2019. And one of the things I also noticed was not a single person would have a headphone in their, like an earbud in on either ear, much less 2 ears. You were like a psycho if you had both ears. So it started out with like 1 ear.
Yep.
And then it was 2, right? So now it's become normal to like have earbuds in.
Of course.
But in 2019, dude, if you had earbuds in, you got to go.
And I mean, New York's not, I mean, it is dangerous if you go to the wrong spots, but it's like you're also kind of trained there to like kind of ignore when people come up to you.
Well, you can't possibly talk to that many people.
Yeah.
And you can't say hi to that many people.
Yeah.
So, like, of course you wouldn't.
Yeah. And it's just like usually if someone comes up and like, hey, buddy, it's usually like they're
homeless,
ask for money or gonna like try and get in your business. And usually it's just like for them, in all of my experience, it's just avoid, just genuinely avoid. And like a nice interaction is a smile or whatever. But when someone like chats to me on the street, I'm like, what? Like I must have dropped something, or they're asking for directions. Like that's
or you're gonna get jacked,
or they're gonna come after you. Yeah. So it's just more like even me and my roommate Paula saw a guy like completely get in a fight with a taxi driver the other day, and the guy was definitely just like belligerent drunk, forgot he had to pay the taxi driver. And we wanted to intervene so bad, and thank God we didn't, because then like a bunch of people came and it turned into a big fight. And it's just like the good human in me wants to intervene and help and be part of it, but genuinely you just have to avoid if you want to not find trouble in the city. And especially like unfortunately with like girls and stuff like that, like it's usually I'm friends with a lot of girls, and it's usually like avoid is just what you have to do in that city.
Kyle, I would still push back on what you would say, though. I don't think that's true.
Well, it's not true.
That people aren't like as friendly.
I think it's changed in the last 6 years.
See, I don't.
Okay, I do.
See, my pushback, I would say that you find what you believe is there.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is like I didn't see people with earbuds in on the walking on the sidewalk. Now I see it regularly.
And what I would say is you weren't like looking for that then, because you're like, oh my God, everybody's so nice, and now you're like, oh,
fuck these people.
It's changed now. Look at all those I don't think you.
What are these people from Southern California?
I think you weren't looking for it then, because I think like David's saying like, oh my God, everybody's so nice, because you had the contrast of where you came from, and now you don't have that contrast.
I'm sure it's true.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm sure that's partially.
I think you're just finally
become numb to it.
Yeah, I think you've molded back into your pessimistic ways. Can't see the good in this city, what it has to offer, and how friendly people are.
I still love this place.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think that like
I hear what you're saying, but I will say that you can't say that there aren't significant changes. Like there's a coffee shop that I won't name, but actually I'm gonna name it.
Don't do it.
Wait, Zocalo Coffee.
Okay.
Used to be my favorite coffee shop in Bozeman.
Okay.
I used to go there. It was a nice environment for normal people. Now everybody's got blue hair and there's some weird shit going on.
This guy's mad because a pretentious coffee shop on Main Street in Bozeman is pretentious.
Oh, it's now. Well, so it's just interesting. It's just like, it's like super, super, super progressive, and I'm like, it just doesn't have the feel. It had a grungy feel of like it was like a dive hip hop. It was like a little bit of hip hop in Montana, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And now it's like there's too much blue hair.
Sounds like a coffee shop I'd hang out at now.
Probably.
See, so this is my argument, but I would argue that
I changed.
Your perspective changed. Like you would like if you thought everyone's so nice here and everything's like kind of cool, like an old hip hop, like you'd see that everywhere. But now you're like, this has changed. Now it's changed.
You're
so like,
seeing the lack of
like
it.
Your focus has changed, so what you see has changed. So I would argue that what's the reality of it hasn't changed that much, but your focus has changed.
Okay, but you know what's? This is a little bit of a sidebar from it, but when I moved to South Carolina for college,
I guess it doesn't matter, right? If you really think about it.
Well, it's your experience. So
what I'm saying. So I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is, let's say that whether it doesn't matter whether you're right or I'm right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I would like for you to be right so that I enjoy it more. Right?
Well, yeah, I think you could enjoy it more. I think if your focus changed, like you could see, like
I'm on Team Tim.
If you, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you want, like, I think ultimately you see what you want to and you believe what you want to, and kind of like, this is a theory off of my experience in life. Is you see, life kind of confirms what you believe is there, and you'll focus on things that will help confirm your beliefs. So if you believe this place has changed and it's become like so progressive and like it's a bunch of like hipster douchebags, like, and you believe that, you're going to see that everywhere. But if you believe, you know what, this place still has some character and some soul and people are really friendly here and they mean well because we're in this beautiful mountain landscape, then I think you'll see that everywhere.
And I'm going to dye my hair blue too.
I just think that when you're in but if you're in a bad mood all the time and you're tired and you're not taking care of yourself, and like that's going to change what you believe and what you see. But if you're like,
I agree with that.
Just like gung ho, titty pink, I feel great, I'm high on life, like titty everything.
Pink, that's a new one.
We're bringing it out. Then you're like, oh my God, everybody's in such a good mood. This place has maintained its classic small town feel while being able to grow and move forward in the 21st century. But this has just been my personal experience. I can't speak for you, fortunately. David, you were saying something. We interrupted you. You said it was a sidebar.
It is a sidebar, just because when the people here go out of their way to smile at you and be extra, how are you doing? How's your Friday? Everything, it does feel genuine. Like, I don't know if it's the way they say it. I don't know if they're just really, I don't know, enthusiastic. But when I moved to South Carolina for college, it was a culture shock in the same way. But I was told it was very fake and very trained, and that Southern kindness and Southern hospitality is something that's like trained and ingrained into your brain. And so you
They don't
say
actually
hi.
mean it.
They say, hi, how are you doing? And then
That's like
tune
Southern.
out.
That's like Southern California.
Yeah, the same way.
Yeah,
But I don't feel that
people
here.
in Los Angeles, and I'm stereotyping, and I can because I grew up there. So people in Los Angeles,
That sounded targeted.
it's 100% targeted to anybody who lives in Los Angeles or is originally from there.
Okay.
So, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of fake. Like, oh, hey, how you doing? You don't give a fuck.
The niceties, yeah.
Don't fucking ask me that question. You don't care about me.
Mm-hmm.
That was how you really feel, Kyle.
I'm just saying. So yeah, I'm sure it's trained.
Well, that's something that I picked
Or
up on
can
in
be.
South Carolina, but didn't pick up here. But
Mm.
that's kind of what I find refreshing about New York. Nobody's bullshitting you. If they're nice to you or they give you a good smile, it's probably because they like you or you did something that wasn't as an asshole. It feels very real.
It's genuine.
Yeah.
Because like, why would it not be? Because
Exactly.
everything else is almost like abrasive.
Exactly. And nobody has time for that. Like, everything is fast paced there. And it's like, if someone's going out of their way to be nice to you, it's because they fucking like you or they want to. And I find that refreshing. But here, it's just, I don't know. Again, it makes me wonder, like, how much of it is trained, how much of it is
people are
genuine.
Really thinking, people are really thinking, like, in 3 months from now, I'm going to be on the side of the road and change my tire in the middle of winter, and this guy might come along. So,
that's how it is in Alaska. That's literally survival up there. And that's when I spent the summer up there doing my wine thing. That was the most community I'd ever seen in my entire life. Like, people really went to bat for each other, and I felt the community there. And they said, it's because it's survival out here. If someone doesn't help you on the side of the road, you will die. If your heat goes out, you will die up here. And the depression gets bad in the darkness. And it is the biggest sense of community I've ever seen. Love Alaska.
So somebody's also told, actually both of me and Kyle, but said the same thing about that Southern hospitality, or essentially fake. Yeah.
Doesn't feel real.
But this is my problem. I have a lot of problems today.
he's contrarian.
Yeah. I would argue that my issue is that when somebody tells you that, they have set an expectation, and you now see everybody through that lens.
What do you mean?
Because you're not going to you're going to look at everyone and say, oh, this person's just pretending to be nice. And you're going to see through the lens of these people are fake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, which sucks because
Like,
you're going
into
it
your
with
mind.
with
Yeah.
opinion, right?
Yeah.
And like enough people say that and it becomes a stereotype, but it's essentially a stereotype that was created because somebody had a bad experience, or a few people had a bad experience, said, hey, yeah, I felt like that too. And then this became this mass.
I do believe stereotypes have a purpose, though. I do believe that there is trends that are so common.
Their purpose is to prove my theory that I'm making right now.
Yeah, but a stereotype exists for a reason. It's not one person. It's many people having a similar experience. But I do know what you're saying.
Can go. What Tim's saying is you can go to the South.
But you shouldn't have that in
some
your
really
mind.
nice people that are actually genuine.
Yeah.
There's just like there's only like 3 of them.
But it's almost like what you're saying with the pessimistic lens, like coming into it with a idea or preconceived notion is going to make you already treat them as they're not being genuine.
So I would love to sit down with somebody raised in or who lives in the South and hear but say
she's probably the one who taught me about the fake niceness.
I mean,
she's going to be on the interview next time.
You could take me, for example, and like I meet a lot of the stereotypes that are from Los Angeles. I think I would meet probably 50% of them.
And what are those stereotypes?
I mean, we could go into that, but like I also don't meet the other 50%.
So that's what I would like. It's fair to argue that maybe it's half the population there.
Yeah, just like anything. Like there's stereotypes of people in Montana. A lot of them are true.
Yeah.
Then there's stereotypes about people in Montana that are not true at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I mean, look at the 2 of you guys, right?
Yeah.
Like you're brothers. You grew up in the same house on the same piece of land. You're very different people. you still look like a dairy farmer, and he looks like you're from New York City.
My nose ring and industrial piercing don't give dairy farmer.
Bro, I'm so triggered. I'm boiling in my skin.
Like, you wish you were grabbing an udder right
What do
now.
I came with a bottle of wine. He came with an energy, a water drink.
He has a gallon of milk outside.
I'm so triggered right now.
I mean, that opens a whole new can of worms.
I mean, so it's like, cool. Like, I don't know. You combine the two people, cut them in half. Yep, 50%, 50%. Like,
But that's also like nurture versus
you're very
nature.
different people. You're also very similar people.
Yeah, it sucks because I feel like Ansley, and sure, if she wants to do the podcast, she can explain this, but she would sit down and say how everyone's fake nice and then say why she's not. Like, she's essentially saying, hey, just to let you know, everyone else except me is going to pretend to be nice, and they're not.
Or it's, hey, this is how we were trained as kids. This is what to expect. This is proper etiquette in the South. This is the response you'll get anytime you walk in the door. Hey, how's it going? Hey, how you all doing? Because that's almost like their hello.
Like, I should
like,
be.
You shouldn't expect someone to want to answer that question. That should just be the greeting. Hey, how's it going, y'all?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
but they don't give a fuck.
They
about
don't want to know how you're doing. That's just how things are greeted. So
how do you know? What if they do want to know, though?
I mean, I'm saying from my South Carolina experience from going to college there for 4 years, because there were a lot of times where you'd walk in the door and the person behind the gas station counter or the coffee shop is deadpan pissed off and like, hey, how y'all doing? And just death glaring you. You're like, I'm good. And they don't say anything or look away or look in the corner. And that's when I first said to Ansley, like, wow, everyone's so nice, but it doesn't really seem real. And she's like, oh, I think it was Ansley. I can't. Don't quote me on that because I had a lot of friends in South Carolina, but I believe that it's just that's fake nice Southern is a very common thing.
Mm-hmm.
To anyone from the South, this is Tim here from the North, and I would like to give you a chance, even though these gentlemen won't. You could pick your bones with them, but I'm here to give you a chance.
I would love to give somebody a chance. I'm just
within reason, and then I will tell you where to go and how to get there. Should I? That chance has expired.
What's that?
I said, should I think that chance has expired, I will tell you where to go and how to get there.
I'll stand my ground. I'll debate anyone who wants to debate it.
This guy's over here standing his ground.
Standing his ground. You're sitting.
I mean, being from Los Angeles, I should be like a TikTok sensation. Like, but I'm not. You know? That's what people do. They're Hollywood. They're flashy. They're, look at me. What? I'm on camera. Take another picture.
I mean, you literally are on camera.
Yeah, but I'm not even facing it. That's how much I care about it.
But you're my case point for a lot of people. I'm like, hey, I've got one of my best friends is from Southern California. Great guy, like great family. Know your whole family.
Super
like,
disingenuous.
That's what I mean. So like, you're my case point. So that's why I'm trying to give everyone a chance, no matter where they're.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and Bailey's a good example of that.
Yeah, sure. So she is essentially saying that she's an exception from this.
She is.
Yeah. Well, allegedly. Maybe it's all fake. No one can really know now.
Full circling.
Bailey, you better rebuttal Tim. If that's been
someone from the South and Bailey and Ansley have all been invited.
I'm just saying. It's anyway.
That's right. Stereotypes are not true, but they're also true.
Yeah, they can be. I bet they're true 50% of the time, at least.
That's fair.
So, which means they're not really true at all.
50% of people have experienced that. Doesn't mean it's true 50% of the time.
So it's basically like, hey, I want to give you some advice. Just flip a coin, and depending on which way it goes, you might get this experience.
All right, put it like that. Why don't you?
It's 50%.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, I wonder if my values have changed since I've been here.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't notice it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when I say values, I mean like first off, people's values change regularly, I think. And when I say regularly, I mean like over the course of your life, right? Like what was important to me at 20 years old is not important to me today. And so like your values change maybe every 3 to 5 years. They kind of evolve as your life changes. Like if you have all of a sudden you have children, you're like, cool, I don't care about going out anymore. Right? Like I am taking care of my kids or whatever it might be. And so I was thinking about this. I was like, you know, if you move from a big city to a smaller town, and even that is like an interesting idea because some people think that Bozeman's a big town. And it is a big town compared to where some people are from. And
compared to Millbrook.
Or to Big Sandy.
Yeah. And so like, okay, so let's just take Big Sandy for example. Like what's important in Big Sandy is different than in Bozeman.
Okay.
And of course it is. Like, why would it not be?
Yeah. The lifestyle is completely different.
And that's a value
in
a sense, right? And so like, I think that people from big cities and vice versa, people from small towns that move to a big city, their values should change and adapt in the place in which they're living. And if it doesn't, I think that's actually weird. Why would it not?
In some sense,
and I think that's ultimately like why we have this conflict with like people politically is that like people think like, oh, well, you don't live that way or you don't think that way. It's like, well, you should. I'm like, no, that actually isn't important in my town and it's not important in my life. So why would I think that way? But if you lived in that other place, it would be important in your town. It would be important in your life. Right? Like immigration like is not like, let's just talk the border issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's way more important on the border than it is not on the border.
When you're seeing it. Yeah, of course.
Well,
when you're reminded of it.
Right. And so like that's different, right? Like if you don't have traffic in your town, why would you care about traffic?
Yeah.
And freeways and transportation and like you wouldn't, right?
I guess
like, and if you don't ever see a dairy farm in New York City and you've grown up, let's just say you grew up in the city your whole life, you don't even know what a dairy farm is. You don't know nothing about it. You don't know where milk comes from. You don't know the process, right?
Yeah.
So like, why would you care about dairy farms? You're like, look, I go to the grocery store. I get this shit. It's easy. I don't care about dairy farms.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my childhood experiences are things that are completely baffling to a lot of my circle of friends and like the people that I spend my time with. And they hear me say things like homeschooled and driving tractors and milking cows, and they've never seen a cow in person. So that is definitely gonna. So
like it's more of a lack of awareness and a lack of education. It's not that they don't care about it; it's that they aren't even aware enough to care about it.
But I wouldn't say values shift so much when you move, because like I've definitely lived in a diverse, different places, being upstate New York, New York City, South Carolina, Alaska, and Montana. But I think my core values have remained constant, and I don't think they've shifted based on the area that I live in. Like maybe traffic's more relevant, but
yeah, maybe we should define values.
Yeah.
What do you mean
by
by
I guess what I'm getting at is like, let's just say like your weekly or monthly routine.
Yeah.
Right. It would change if you lived in Millbrook.
For sure. I mean,
and so like, I guess what I'm getting at is like
your entire way of life shifts.
Yeah. And so maybe I'm saying values and I shouldn't be.
Like interests or like routine's a good word.
Or whatever. Like, I guess what becomes important to you.
You could say priorities. Like you might not, maybe at your core you value over everything family or vice versa. But I could see what Kyle's saying because
like, I'm just saying like, okay, I live here. I've lived here for 6 years now. 5 years ago, going out and having a drink on Friday night was way more important to me. Way more. Yeah. Now I'm like, I don't even remember the last time I went out and had a drink on Friday night, except for tonight.
It's like, isn't it Friday night now?
Well, I'm just, so if you're in a big city and you're in your 20s and everyone's working, busting their ass to make money, and you got to work 70 hours a week just to, stay above water. So you're going to work 70 plus, and if every day you're with these people that are working like that, that's the culture. So that culture will shift your priorities. If you come here and everyone says, we don't work Sundays, we spend time with family.
Yep.
We have we have a small house, we have kids. You're going to start to think, I mean, every human to some extent wants to fit in and be accepted in their environment. So you're going to, it is going to change what you prioritize. You can say, oh, I kind of want a house now. And maybe I want to find someone to start a family with.
Yeah. When my brother Cole got out of college and moved straight to Atlanta, and everybody at 21 years old is already married. And he's like, dude, I just got out of college. Like, why is everybody married? And he was like, what the fuck, dude, this is wild. But that was like their thing. It was like, you get engaged your senior year of college and you get married the next year.
I feel like you also, I mean, I would hope most people, and maybe most people don't do this, but you move to fit what you excel at. Like when I lived here in Bozeman, I guess Gallatin Gateway, I was making great money at the YC, but I was so miserable in that I need a lot more stimulation than what was offered when I was living here, and didn't have a car, and the city of Bozeman was like a $70 Uber, and I spent so many nights remembering being on the farm as a kid when I was bored to the point that I thought I could like scratch nails on a chalkboard and that'd be more fun than what I was doing right now. Like I genuinely thought I was going insane. And the first year in New York City, when I had to walk dogs to afford my rent and eat pizza $1 slice for every meal, I felt so much more accomplished, more complete, more like I was doing what I want to do than when I had a cushy savings account working for the YC. And that was what some people said was a horrible decision, to go fight for my rent. But
That's what you
getting
wanted.
my first apartment key was the best feeling of my entire life. And I would not look back in any sort of way.
Yeah.
And I think that's what most people should do. But I also know it's terrifying. I know a lot of people who are still in my hometown that have the potential to do that, but the fear kind of keeps that back.
You're saying move to an environment that you can thrive in, or that you feel the most comfortable in.
One that excites you, and like one that you're willing to put in the work for. Like I knew I was making okay money here, but it didn't satisfy me. It didn't feel like I was pushing myself or getting out of my comfort zone.
Well, I've said this about Bozeman, and I know this is not a popular opinion, so come at me. But part of me likes that it's expensive. And what I like about that is it means you have to work your ass off to be here. And like, so the people that are going to be here want to be here.
Yeah.
And like, I know everyone's born in a different situation and put in a different situation. And I don't like mean that to take that away from anyone that like was dealt not a great hand of cards, but
yeah, totally fair.
It's like, yeah, like I'm like, fuck, if I want to stay here, I'm gonna like bust my ass and do something and show up and present the best version of myself, and that's great. And I don't, but like at the same time, I get it if you want to be here and you can't. Like I don't know what to say to that either. There's not like an easy answer for that, but there are different places where it's more affordable, and like maybe that's the solution for now if you aren't in a situation where you can bust your ass. And I don't know, maybe the situation is everyone's born with a different IQ and a different, like, some things are just harder for some people. I'm like, I know that too, because there's things that are much more difficult for me and things that come easy. And that's, I don't know. I don't make the rules. I'm just playing the game. So I'm not going to complain.
Yeah,
I'm not going to,
like, okay, I'm going to challenge you on this topic.
Please do.
Because I think most people,
Can you pull your mic a little closer, sir?
I've done the same. I've done the same thing. I've given the same speech.
Okay.
And I partly believe it, and then part of me, I believe it.
That you like that it's more expensive, or which part?
No, like so like I believe it. I know it, but I guess I'm gonna question what you're talking about. So like some people have better opportunities than others.
Yeah.
Yes, true. But like, what opportunity did you have? Like you homeschooled yourself. You grew up on a dairy farm. Like you didn't come from like, hey, here's this inheritance and like go take off in the world and here's hundreds of thousands of dollars to go start mountain mule transportation. Like none of that shit happened.
But you
So
also
like
didn't
what
start in a bad situation, like one where you're, setting up on broken home where, maybe you wouldn't have access to being educated or having a dairy farm to get experience on and stuff like that. So might not be privileged, but there's definitely not underprivileged too. And like the not knowing that struggle.
I guess that's it's interesting. Like I don't know the difference between underprivileged. Like where is the line?
Well,
right?
that's
like your father died when you were 9.
I was 11.
11.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
So like you could say, okay, I didn't have a father figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, I don't know compared to what, like compared, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't, so I'm challenging because I don't know the same thing of like, I don't know. I can say, hey, my parents paid for my college. I'm very fortunate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now my college was super cheap, but like they still paid for it.
Yeah.
So like Kyle got a leg up. My mom and dad are still alive. I got another leg up. My mom and dad are still married. I got another leg up, right? Like, and so I guess what I'm getting at is like, I don't know where the line is. And I think it's probably like case by case.
I think it's probably not knowing that too. That is like the privilege. You don't know what that struggle would be. Like that's like the comparative of it. Like,
and here's what I'll say. You could take all those aside and you could say, imagine you never, like you were hungry every day and you didn't know where food was coming from. Imagine you never saw one person your entire life or never had one person around you that said, hey, you can do something with your life. So then therefore, kind of back to what I'm saying is you believe everywhere you look, there's no opportunity, there's no chance, but throw all that away. Like forget about the circumstances, whether it's parents, no parents, good role models, terrible role models, food, lack of food. What about just the like amount of intellectual, like your IQ?
Yeah.
Because how do you, like, I don't know, you've met
I don't know what my IQ is.
Yeah, but I know people that are insanely smarter than me. And I know people that I am like a lot smarter than in some senses. And I don't know, like you don't pick. Like,
you think that too?
I think that IQ is a hard one because there's some people like my sister in a survival situation. I would pick her over me 10 times.
Which sister?
Becky. That girl, I would think that she's such a badass and so resourceful, like on the street. But like in school, like I had to help her with a lot of stuff, and I'm 2 years younger than her, and I was always really good at school.
What is IQ?
But I also think IQ is stupid because like, what's the metric? Like, what, based on one standardized test that every single person's taking?
It doesn't matter if you think it's stupid or not, but it's a way to measure intelligence in a certain to these standards, which is fine. It doesn't matter if that's relevant or not. But on this bar, you can see where you are on this specific bar. I'm not saying that like there could be 1,000 bars, but IQs are good because it's for this, with this set of criteria and these questions. But
the standard we've all been set up.
But look at people like Elon Musk or people with just insanely sharp brains that can create things. And like, I don't know, maybe I could operate on that level with the right set of circumstances. Maybe I never could, and that's not my peak environment. But I'm just saying, it's like I'm making the case for both sides because I want to be here. These are my cards I'm dealt, intellectually, financially, monetarily, all the above. So I want to be here. I love the area, and I'm going to work hard to be here. And that's all I can do. And if I, with my spare time, or if I can accumulate a bunch of extra resources and I want to try to give back and help people that I think need a hand, then that's my choice.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll do. So that's why I'm not going to sit here and cry for everyone that isn't in this situation. I'm going to do the best I can with my situation. And if I really do well, then I can give back and help other people out. Great. But that's why it's an unpopular argument, because it's very nuanced and it's hard to just sit here and say, what the fuck are you talking about? I work my ass off, or oh, this isn't fair. Like, nobody gives me a chance. Neither is really a good spot to be in. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm going to do the best I can with the situation I have. And honestly, ultimately, and I truly mean this, if I can do really well for myself, I do want to give back and help anyone else do well who wants to try to do well for themselves. And some people are helpless in the sense that there's no way you can help them. And some people just need a leg up, and then they can take off from there, and hopefully they can, pass that on. Yeah. I don't know. Jesus Christ, why did we get down that rabbit hole?
Because I've asked.
You had to ask.
Yeah, I got you. It makes sense.
Marathons at one point.
Anyway, David, what are you doing with your life?
Like a tangent.
We went down a deep one.
What are you doing with your life?
This is a great question, because when I listened to the podcast last year, it was me helping a startup and working with them to create this new event business, which is taken off like crazy. And all right, this is going to go public, so I should probably be pretty good. I'm just kidding.
No, that's a good question, though, and I'll cut you off, but continue after I finish cutting you off. Because did you listen to the whole thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, look at where you said you were heading a year ago and your perspective, and then how much has it changed now? And yeah, you can answer that question. And what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah. Well, it's awesome because
look at him. He's not going to pour himself a glass of wine.
Yeah, of course.
Why do you even have the glass? Drink the whole bottle.
Yeah, I still got a quarter left. Last year when I did the podcast, it's when the company was just getting started, and they were a brand new operating events company. I thought maybe I'd have a few employees under me. Maybe the events would go well. Really taking a leap of faith from the distribution sommelier stuff that I was doing, because that had full benefits, 401k, everything lined up. And this was a complete startup, absolutely no job security. And I'll toot my own horn. I crushed it for them in the past year. Like we've already hit 3 times the projections we wanted, made over $1 million more than I expected in sales. It's done amazing. The company is absolutely outstanding. And it's begged the question to myself, damn, I'm making other people a lot of money. And after I just did this marathon and really proved to myself I can do anything, it really made me question why I'm putting so much into this company. And don't get me wrong, I love the company. I really enjoy the events. Every event I get to interview a celebrity or an athlete. I'm getting so good at moderating, getting on the
Hey bro, you think you're better interviews than us?
I mean, we'll let the people decide. Check out my LinkedIn for my interviews. But I really enjoy what I'm doing with them, but I really think I could do this for myself in the wine world. And I think I have a really good idea of what I want my brand to be. And now that I have all this time after the marathon, I'm really excited to pour my heart into it. Maybe train somebody to kind of do what I did for that other company and still be that consulting kind of mentor role, and hopefully retain some of the commission that I built for the company, but really start to bet on myself and get my own brand and my own career launched a little more. And so 1 year ago, I talked about 1 or 2 employees that they would have outside of the company. We're up to 20 hired out as of a few days ago. And yeah, it's doing great. I absolutely love what they do, but I don't have equity in that company. It was somebody else's dream that I'm making come real. So I'd like to do it for myself now.
Okay.
And I don't exactly know what that's going to look like. I did just apply for a few master's programs in Spain, a few wine academies that I'd like to attend for the next year or 2 before I hopefully put some roots into the land that our family owns in upstate New York. The old DB winery or whatever I decide to call it.
All right. What do you think you want to do?
I mean, the biggest.
What do you think you want to do?
Yeah. This guy can't even position his mic properly. So we were trying to run an interview.
The most rewarding experience that I've done is taking wine and making it so much more personal personable than just an alcoholic beverage. And a great example was a garden party I did for this girl. It was her birthday celebration. She brought her sister, her friends, her family. There was about 15 guests, and what I had her do was send me a paragraph, just a memory of every single person that was at that event. And so one great example was her younger sister, who was her best friend growing up. And she said they were so close as kids, but they both have taken their own path and they kind of found their own way. And one of the best experiences they had was going to Africa together and exploring that landscape on a study abroad trip. And so for the garden party, as the first wine, I said the oldest friendship is going to be from the oldest winery. And it was a champagne from Africa where they took that trip. And the champagne was made from 2 grapes that had the same mother grape, but it actually divided up years and years later to become a red and a white. But they came together to make that bottle of wine. And so that wine represented their sisterhood, but how they became different people on that trip. And it was the oldest winery for the oldest friendship at the event. And that was like her wine that went with the first course of the meal. And every single person that went down the line had a very similar experience. And it was the wine, how it matched with their personality, their memories, their friendship, their story. And everyone got like a picture of their label. They were able to buy that again. And still to this day, they're texting me like, every time I drink this wine, I think of you. It reminds me of this. It reminds me of that. So I want to take wine into a different category of more than just smells. What's a flower they once gave you? What's a perfume that smells like that person that reminds you of you? You could do it with weddings. You could do it with just friend get-togethers, stuff like that. But take something that's as simple as a beverage and make a memorable experience and curate that. So that's the starting goal. And then I want to get into my own production and base wines off of my own life experiences, other people's life experiences, things like that. Like naming the wine after one of the fields that one of the cows we had growing up in and stuff like that, and tell the story of the land. And our farm is 5 generations and used to do stuff with prohibition, and we used to make moonshine for senators and stuff. So like the land has history. There's already storytelling there, and kind of create a whole experience more than just here's something to get you fucked up on. Because that's been my experience with wine. Everywhere I've trained, everywhere I've learned is what makes me me and what builds my knowledge. And that's what I want to create for other people. And I love people who say they don't like wine or they don't like a white, because I'm like, challenge accepted. I'll find you a white that you like.
Okay, so you lost me at Africa. I'm just kidding. But I was going to say, do you think these alcoholics even care?
There was a lot of crying at my garden party. And I mean, granted, after you have a few bottles of wine, it's pretty easy to get people into it. But it was super meaningful. And to do that for someone's wedding or even a kid being born and they could keep it for 21 years and age it, like that's that little personal touch I think that's missing out of the oversaturated wine world.
You're saying keep it in a barrel for 21 years?
Or keep a bottle that can age well.
How does that work? How does wine age in a bottle?
Depends. There's some grapes and some processes that are made specifically for aging the wine. Like sometimes you put a bottle in that you bottle in 2023, but it needs 10 years of fermentation. And you could put that in a barrel, or you could bottle it early and kind of have that ferment in bottle or anything like that. So it depends on the goal. But like,
so there's some wines that ferment in a bottle.
There's some that can age. Some grapes that have ageability, some that are meant to be drank young, some that are good after years of sitting there. But
okay, so what have you been doing for the last year? You talked about like you've been interviewing these celebrities and it's related to wine.
It's not related to wine at all.
Oh, it's not?
No. This is just, okay. I left the biggest distributor in New York City to join this events company. And they essentially bought me out.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of wine stuff. Then I completely moved over to this. My company puts on events for the chief information officer, the chief cybersecurity officer, or the chief financial officer. So CIO, CISO, or CFO. And we put on events that host only them and their decision-making partners. And we partner them with AWS.
Okay, but let's back up. So what do they do?
They are the CFO of the hospital, the bank, the local area. So say I'm hosting an event in Bozeman. First, I'm going to get sponsors like Amazon or Google or whoever has a technology solution. if that's for finance people,
I
I'm going to
see.
get all the local
I got
CFOs
you.
together and sell them sponsorship.
I got you.
And then to be different, we bring a local celebrity or an athlete to every single event. Always a hometown hero. So like when we just had Leonard Marshall, the New York Giants superstar, I FaceTimed my mom as I was interviewing him, and my mom freaked the fuck out. It's so cool. But we just bring a local athlete so that everyone there that's lived in New York City can be like, yo, I was at your game this day. I saw this. Like, just create that one-on-one experience. And as the only sales guy in the company and as someone who's not afraid to go on stage, they've asked me to moderate the events, introduce the companies, do the interviews with the celebrities, and kind of be the spokesperson. And that's so fun for me. As someone who grew up terrified of public speaking, I've kicked that fear's ass.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a lot.
You should ask for more money.
And honestly,
have you?
I work mostly on commission, and they're a startup, so genuinely, they're giving me a very generous commission, so I really don't need to. But
even though you've done so well,
yeah, I mean, it's nothing to turn my nose at. The benefits that they've given me, and every experience I go to, it's VIP treatment. So
yeah,
I think it's very give and take.
It sounds like that you've done way over what everybody planned.
There's only 4 of us. I think honestly, we're all doing a lot.
Why are you making excuses for them?
I'm just saying they're a good company. They've treated me well. I don't feel taken advantage of. I think, yeah, I could.
It doesn't mean you're being taken advantage of, but just like, hey, I want more. I'm worth more. And they're probably like, yeah, you are. You know what?
Well,
if they believe that.
That's kind of how the 3-year mark is lining up, because that'll be right in January, and that's when I plan to launch my own brand and my business and my company of doing the wine consulting and events on a more serious page. And that's where I'm going to kind of come to them and be like, what's my time worth to you?
Why don't you do that now?
Yeah, why don't you do that now? And honestly, wouldn't like...
I just finished the marathon at the beginning of this month, guys. I'm literally, today was like, I just bought a new platform
beginning
to
of
plan
this
my
month
business.
Is like the 22nd.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks. I'm working on it.
Look,
also,
I'm not trying to criticize you. What I'm saying is,
honestly, I took this trip, Montana, as my time. Like, I want to go back to New York with an entire like next steps business plan created, everything.
We're trying to get you there.
It's kind of been my thing.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Also, I don't see why like
the reason I'm asking is because I feel like most people have a hard time asking for things that they want or things that they think they deserve. And they go too long without asking those questions.
Honestly, I've always kind of been that kind of person too.
That's why I'm pushing you to not be.
I've always genuinely like allowed not people to take advantage, but felt like it's hard to put a price on your own time and your own value. That's something that I've always had issues with. Just because I'm like, no, like, please, that's too much or whatever. But honestly, at this point, I'm like, I've worked hard enough, you know? It's just unlearning that habit of being like, no.
So I think people wait and they, oh, well, I'll talk to somebody in 6 months or a year. And then.
No, I'm in that boat. I 1,000,000% have seen that. Even in my first company out of college, I asked for a raise months after, and they're like, give it a few months. It's like, if I just fucking did it when I should have.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Also, aren't you going to keep your job while you start your other company?
Probably. I don't know.
You should, because I think it's a mistake that people make when they start business. And I only said that because I've done it. But you think because you're going to start this business, you've got to stop doing whatever else you're doing. So then you essentially put yourself in a situation which, yeah, it's great to not be able to go back on anything, but yeah, there you go. You know, like you can still have an income from another thing and get it going before you just put yourself in a terrible situation. You just have to also be ready to cut the cord when you need to cut the cord. But I think people think that I got to cut the cord to burn all the boats and then do it, which is great. Or you could get it started, get going, and then still have an income and pay your bills and use that to supplement until it gets to a place where you can survive.
I think I was also in the boat of thinking like timing is everything, but like there's never a right time for certain things like that. To have that conversation, to ask for more money, to put a value on yourself.
Well, so
like,
I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, so first off, congrats. Like you've found something that you really enjoy and you've done really well at it. That's hard to do in life.
Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of people don't like what they're doing and they're not good at it and they're not successful at it.
Yeah.
Right. So like you're in a sweet spot.
Yes. And I like what I do.
Yeah.
The events are badass.
Yeah,
like
clearly.
every single time I go out of it,
Clearly.
smiling ear to ear.
Right.
Like it's
like
an awesome opportunity.
And even if you stayed with this company, it doesn't mean that next year you're going to enjoy it. It doesn't mean that next year you guys are going to be good at it. And so like it could just change.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And so I think that's a fallacy that we think of like, oh, well, if I stay at this company, it's going to be the same next year and the year after. That's not always true. Right. There are places that you enjoy and they are for an 18-month window
Yes.
or 3-year window. Right.
For sure.
Some people have long 10-year careers and they enjoy it the whole time. Some people, you don't enjoy it at all, right? So like it's a fallacy.
That's a most camp.
It's
most,
it's a
most
fallacy to
don't.
think that you're going to enjoy it the same way in 18 months.
Yeah.
Or 2 years or whatever the timeline is. So congrats on that. But like the way you described it is like, I'm going to start my own company, my own events company and do my own thing. Right. So I have a question. It's like, let's just say they doubled the amount of money that you're going to make. Would you say, oh, well, I'm not going to start my events company? Right. And that's like the reason I'm asking you that question is because I've had to ask myself these questions of like, wait, what am I doing? If they double my money, do I just stay in a situation that I don't really like or that's not really my passion? And honestly, it's a hard question to ask yourself because you're like, well, like this shit's real, right? It's real money in my bank account and it's real like things to change my life in other scenarios.
Yeah.
But then you're prolonging and procrastinating on something else.
So they kind of did buy me out of my last job. That's why my commission is so high. Like I was working for the biggest distributor in New York City of wine. I was representing Opus One, the top winery in all of California. Like I was top tier. And they made an offer that I couldn't resist because I knew that money would accelerate my other dreams. And that's exactly what has happened in this past year and what I've been preparing for. And it's not any amount of money they could give me now that would stop me from pursuing this dream. It's more so coming to an understanding with them of where my priorities are going to be. And I'm so fine with delegating a certain amount of time to them. But this year they have had me as a business person, which means I didn't regulate my hours. I was working all hours of the day, training a team to be top notch. Like they had my heart and soul into it. I saw their vision. We made it happen. We crushed it. The next phase is that they need to understand that, and they knew this. I said this from the very beginning that this was going to be a job. It's more so just understanding what direction that's going to look like in the next few months, to the next year, to the next 3 years. Because I like to have a loose plan of going to Spain and getting my master's, but I do not believe in sticking. I don't think anything's set in stone. I'm definitely an opportunist. I don't need this degree to start my business. It's just something that I've always wanted to get my master's and live in Europe. Our farm is also being leased out, so I can't really do anything with that land for a while. So kind of seems like the right time.
Cool.
But, we'll see how things play out in the next few months. But my next big step, and I know like Timmy's talked a little bit about diving full head into his own projects too. I feel like I need to put my heart and soul into myself and to have bet on myself.
Cool.
Got to commit.
Yeah. And I think the only way for me to truly do that is to at least not cut some ties, but set some boundaries of like, these are my working hours and then it's my time. Exactly.
The only reason me and Kyle were pushing you with the you should ask for more money because we could tell that you had some resistance. I could tell you were like, no, I don't like.
I just don't want it.
I see you're doing it right now.
I just don't want it to seem like I'm not given an amazing opportunity right now, because I am. And asking for more, again, it comes down to like greed. It's like, oh, I don't want to be greedy, but like, yeah, I definitely deserve more.
But that's what I mean. Like I can.
It's a tough battle internally.
Yeah, well, that's what you need to just get the fuck over it.
Greedy's a mindset.
Yeah.
So if you're not greedy,
it's a self-worth thing. You're
if you're
saying
not greedy, you can't be greedy.
The word
Does that make
greedy
sense?
sounds so scary, though. You know, it's like I never want to be a greedy person, but it's also like knowing your self-worth.
So there's okay. So there's like this interesting thing that I'm like waking up to. We were talking about some of it with Foster. Like when people think like, oh, like you have a big ego, David. What's that sound like?
You're cocky.
Okay. That's how you perceive it, right? No, you might have a big ego. And it might be a big fucking healthy ego.
That's the thing, is you could just say healthy.
And so
the word ego,
but like even ego, like ego
is right. But it's perceived as bad, right? You could have a very like healthy ego and be like, no, I'm fucking good at these 5 things. I also have all these other flaws and like I'm fucked up here and I'm humble here, but like these 5, fuck you, I'm fucking good at them.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll take anybody on. Right. Like I'm Steph Curry hitting threes. Right. Like that's who you are at these certain things.
For sure.
Right.
And I would ego for that. Yeah.
Right. And so like you don't even need to question it. It's like, no. Like I'm good at them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like the same thing goes with making money. It's like, well, no, I should be making the top-notch dollar amount for what I'm doing if I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
Right. And it could be 5 times the amount of money that you're making right now. And so like remove you from the equation. How well is the company doing right now?
I don't think the company would really have much to do without me there, which is something that I've worked very hard to curate.
Right. So maybe you should ask for a raise.
Yeah, it's just
an interesting time because
I've watched people, coworkers, people that I know really well, that never felt like they could ask for a raise.
Yeah. Never got to that.
And for 10, 15, 20 years, they stayed with the same company. And they're not doing very well.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because they're not sticking up for themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's also like if you don't have that drive or you don't feel like you're being paid worth what you're worth, you're not going to work as hard and stuff like that, you know?
You give up on yourself.
Yeah.
That's what happens. You give up on yourself.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm going to run to the restroom.
No, you can't.
Was that? Just check it. See if it's locked. There you go. This guy's a scientist. Dude, you want to know? I just very recently in my travel endeavors, like realized a real like deep-rooted, deep-seated belief I had. Like I'll say like this is kind of like a global belief, not about myself, but just about like people and things in general.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, if you're like rich or financially wealthy, you're a greedy or selfish asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just like a general thing. I wasn't walking around thinking this, but I realized this was
subconscious.
This is something I learned growing up.
You learned it from society.
No.
No.
Yes.
You have the media.
Yes. Okay.
Media is basically for the last 10 years or so.
Okay, but
media has been saying that these rich people are bad.
Maybe, but I'll say I know people directly in my life who said those exact statements.
Okay, but that's because they're probably not rich.
Yeah, right. Precisely. Right. And you want to justify like why you're not doing well and somebody else is.
They have to be a bad person to make more money than me.
Yeah.
Of course
and
they
there's,
do. That
like
guy's a prick.
as we just had a conversation earlier, there's a lot of nuance to that, but I realized, that like nobody wants to be an asshole. Nobody wants to be perceived as a greedy,
Yeah.
rich asshole, selfish, myself included. So like, in a way, I'll like stop myself from having any sort of financial like
Yeah.
success moving forward.
Right.
So maybe I should talk to David about this.
Yeah. No, this is a challenge for people who are in the lower class, middle class people. Basically everybody, right? That like there's this idea that like rich people are bad, you know? And I think that's weak-minded, and I think it's short-sighted.
I think weak-minded is like I wouldn't agree with that statement. I think it's an ill-informed. I wouldn't say weak-minded. Like I don't think it's a weakness. I think it's a like you're uninformed or you're like misinformed.
Okay. All right. Sure.
I wouldn't say your beliefs that you've been taught your whole life are a weakness. There's something like you're almost like, like how would you know if everyone teaches you this growing up? You'd like, what are you gonna do? Question everybody? Like that doesn't make you weak. That makes you a human.
But do you think you were taught that the rich were?
Yeah. Well, okay, I hear what you're saying, but like, let's go into. I think.
Here we go.
I think there is some weakness there, and we don't like. I think you're right. It's a misguided belief.
Yeah, it's a misconception.
But like, if we're playing a sport and I beat you, right, and you think that I'm an asshole because I beat you, that's weak. You're weak.
But I don't think
right. And so like, business is a sport. That's all it is.
Okay.
Like business is a sport. It's probably the ultimate sport. And so it's like, however, now we can talk into like getting into ethics and morals. There are people willing to bend rules that are unethical to win the game, right?
Yeah.
Then you can be an asshole and a fucking prick and corrupt and all fucked up because you wanted to win the game, but you lost your soul, right?
Yeah, I mean,
that's not cool. So you might be a rich asshole and you actually are a rich fucking asshole. Versus somebody else might be really rich and they've done it ethically, morally, and they've followed something that you could agree with.
I think in that case, you'd just be an asshole who happens to be wealthy. Like because the term
but it depends on how you got there.
But that's what I mean. The term is backwards though. That says rich asshole. Like you're just an asshole who's rich, and that guy's an asshole who's poor. Like the rich is rich is not the like.
Because there's also old money. There's also people that work their ass off to make their money. I feel like a lot of categories of.
I was just saying, I don't think it's a conscious like, oh, you're just weak because you think that guy's an asshole. Like, no, you've been improperly ill-informed that like just because someone has wealth and has succeeded at the game of wealth, they're not an asshole. Like that's a misconception but you can be reinformed like, hey, that person is not an asshole because they've succeeded. They're who they are regardless, and they may have done well financially or not.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is like if somebody builds a business and it's based on merit, right? There are other people that build that same business that's not based on merit. And so I say same, I'm simplifying it, right? But they basically build the exact same business, but it's not based on merit. It's based on doing backdoor deals with politicians, right? And saying, hey, I'll give you a kickback. Like, if you give me this $100 million contract, I'm going to give you $5 million. I'm going to donate it to your special fund, and I'm going to backdoor $5 million. Now, now it's a $95 million contract instead of $100 million. I'm going to discount it, right? 5%, but you're going to get that 5%, which happens all the fucking time.
Dude, that's all the wine industry is. I'm telling you.
And so great. Thank you for saying that. That's what the construction industry is in some ways at like the federal government level. And people don't want to talk about it, but like some of the biggest companies in the last 5 years are getting all the most recent example of this is the Build Back Better, better build. Now I'm fucking it up because I don't even know this. It's the Build Back Better plan, right? And it's like the infrastructure bill, right? There's a bunch of people and a bunch of construction companies, several CEOs that have donated to directly to those campaigns, and they just miraculously get these contracts. And it's like, and if you can go back in history and look it all up, right? It's public knowledge.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's like,
because
you didn't build a successful business. You gave somebody a bribe through a donation.
The amount of wines that would get sent to us is like samples of like the nicest wine that's out there, and you just go to that bar manager and you're like, hey, I need 10 of these cases of wine moved in. I have this really fancy bottle of wine, or I have a case of this wine at home. Maybe that just ends up on your doorstep, and all of a sudden,
right,
you're the biggest supplier. And it doesn't have, that's what, honestly, the integrity of the wine industry is why I left it, because
it wasn't
I worked my ass off to learn about wine.
Right.
And the amount of people that were like, what are you going to give me for selling this?
Yeah. And so
that's where my heart started to be like, fuck, I thought this was
genuine.
Or I thought it's going to be like the company that I'm trying to build.
Could build it through merit.
Yeah.
And so so let me make sure that I clarify.
I was wondering what was your, because we were talking about weakness of mind.
Yeah. So let me go back to there. So let me make sure I make this comment. You can also donate money to a good cause that's connected to somebody that's actually fucking genuine too. You can do that, right? So it's not disingenuous. So I just want to, like, you can have both.
Yeah.
Right? You can have a business that you've built on true merit, and you can donate money to good causes that are connected to people, right? That has integrity. So that's a possibility too. Going back to weakness of mind is people will default to, oh, well, that person got there because they must be corrupt. They must have bribed somebody. No, that person worked their fucking ass off, and it's based on merit. And so, like, you're a weaker person and a weaker in your mind, in the sense that, like, you're not willing to put the work in. You're not willing to go to sacrifice to that level of effort to build that business. And so that's weakness. It's the same thing as like, okay, they endured more than you. This person ran further than you. This person did, like, it's almost like an energy output. It's like, I'm willing to put in 10 units of energy, and this person's willing to put in 100. Guess what? They're going to win. They worked harder, period. They're stronger.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Maybe we were on a misunderstanding, because I thought you were saying they're weak of mind for thinking that person's an asshole. But you're saying they're weak because they won't put in as much effort. That's like,
yeah.
But I'm saying, I was not speaking to the effort they're putting in. I was speaking to the belief that that person's an asshole because they did more.
Yeah. Got it.
So, like, I would say that's not a weakness.
That's a misunderstanding.
That's an ignorance.
Yeah.
But, like, it can be a weakness of mind if, yes, somebody just wants to work harder than you because they have, who knows, unbeknown reasons to be more motivated, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, you might just be, fuck, I don't want to work that hard, but I'm envious of their success. That's a personal problem.
Like, yeah, and I think those kind of go both hand in hand, in the sense of, like, if you've never seen anybody work that hard, you're ignorant about how much work it takes, right? So if somebody gets up at 2 a.m. and goes and milks cows, right, because they don't have a choice, like, boom, like, they don't have a choice. It has to happen, and it's got to happen in this, like, I have to start this work in the next 30 minutes, right? To keep the rest of the whole, like, process going. And I'm making a fake example. What do I know about milking cows? But, like, somebody wakes up at 2 a.m. and
they have your league here.
Yeah, and they have to go to work, right? Like, but you've never seen that. It hasn't been an example to you, right? Let's just say your example was somebody wakes up at 8 a.m. and goes to work at 9, right? and they go to a 9 to 5. That's a big difference. And so that's an ignorance but it's also a work output, right? Is it like it's kind of both,
Yeah.
right? Like you're like, I've never seen anybody work that hard, so it doesn't happen. Well, no, it actually does happen. Some people wake up at 2 a.m. and they do whatever it takes, or they stay up until midnight.
Yeah.
I feel like as growing up on the farm and seeing what the 9 to 5 takes and knowing that I was never cut up for the farm lifestyle, but then sitting in my apartment and typing on my computer and makes a living, like I don't think my sister Becky would ever enjoy that lifestyle that I've come to love. Like,
yeah,
I was never an early riser. The reason I was sent to public school, it was not by choice like my siblings. I was literally hiding from my mom to do work in the morning. And I remember her coming into the house being like, "You're so fucking lazy, you're going to public school." The only one of us 4 siblings.
so awesome.
And
I don't think she used the F-bomb.
Probably.
I doubt it.
Maybe not then.
You were like hiding in the closet.
Well, that's a different story.
You son of a bitch. Oh God.
Got him.
I would literally, if my mom would come in at 5 a.m. and be like, "Go feed the cows" or something, and I would go and hide or fall back asleep. Like genuinely, I'd fall back asleep almost all the time. And again, I'm making good money now, but not doing physical labor. But that doesn't equal like exactly what you want. Like I don't think my sisters. I don't think Becky would enjoy that lifestyle. That I just mean,
work in general, right?
Yeah.
Some people could do it on a computer. They can do it on their phone.
Yeah.
Some people, it's right here, right?
Yeah.
Like they're working. This is an interesting thing that I've like started to like turn my own page on. Is that like this is work?
Yeah.
And if I just sit and think, this fucking thing can come up with some good ideas. It also comes with some bad ideas, but it comes up with some good ideas. And so people are like, dude, like 45 minutes of just thinking might be the most valuable time of the entire day per dollar.
Yeah.
And you're like, I might come up with a really good solution to a super complex problem. And I'm not going to do a damn thing but think.
Yeah. My expertise is not in manual labor. It's in what I say, the knowledge that I have and stuff like that.
No, but it's crazy, right?
It's true, yeah.
People have these
but it's finding your strengths.
Yeah, that's right. People have these different skill sets that they excel at. And you could train somebody else to become a really good presenter and blah, blah, blah. And they're never going to be that good at it.
Yeah. There's also inborn talent. There's natural, just finding your rhythm with certain things. Like there are a lot of jobs that I know I could never excel at. And it's hard when you compare yourself too, and when you've been given certain opportunities for it. But I've definitely found my space in that, the events and talking. And
I got somebody you need to talk to.
Who's that?
Chase Conrad. My brother.
Is that your brother? I was thinking I know that last name.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys should chat. It'd be interesting.
Why do you say that?
I think there's some overlap in what you want to do and what he's been doing.
Nice.
Not in the wine world, but he likes wine. So yeah.
Well, when you went to the bathroom, what I said to Kyle, which I said I should tell you, but we just went on a small riff. I said to Kyle very recently, I realized that I had a very deep-seated sort of like global belief about people that if you're rich or financially wealthy, because rich can be kind of broad, that you must be a greedy, selfish asshole. And I swear, I have directly heard this from people growing up. Mm-hmm. And this was definitely something in my environment that I heard a lot.
Same.
And I've just realized that's how much that's held me back, because I will keep myself unconsciously from gaining a certain amount of wealth, because who wants to be a greedy, selfish asshole? Most slightly rationally thinking people don't.
Yeah. I think
so. I've just realized that that's been going on behind the scenes, underneath the surface, since I've been a child. And I was thinking, oh wow, how much has that stopped me from? And what are what are the side effects and the repercussions of thinking and believing something like that? And like,
It's funny because when I went to public school in 6th grade, so I was probably 11, 10 years old, I remember going to school in a John Deere t-shirt and a shaved head and thinking like, oh, screw the rich. They're obviously the poison in our
Eat the
society.
rich.
Yeah, they don't know a hard day's work. And some of my first friends that I like went over to their house, I saw insane houses coming from a dairy farm to just mansions in upstate New York and estates and gorgeous dinners in New York City for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I only saw not even like gluttony or like I want this for myself, but just like opportunity. And I was like, damn, it would be so nice to just be able to take a trip, do this. And our mom never really we never had allowances. We never, would necessarily have money unless we did something for it, made odd jobs to make money, sold sweet corn on the street. And I remember in middle school, I was like, I want to be rich just so that I can have access to whatever the fuck I want. Like I saw it as opportunity, but
yeah, I was just asking like if deep underneath that, like, and that's great that you saw that. Like, do you still have this like?
Is your mom in town right now?
Yeah.
She got in today?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Becky's in town too?
Should be sometime next week.
Oh, next week. Okay.
But I mean, I absolutely grew. I had that exact same preconceived notion about all rich people and city people were idiots. But I also, when I went to public school, took such a drastic turn from everyone.
Idiots?
Never heard
That's
that.
awesome.
It's kind of rude.
I'm a city. It's cool.
But I also
It's hard to see a picture when you're in it.
I feel like public school was my big transformation, though.
Mhm.
That's when I
said that on the last podcast too.
Yeah.
Said no one ever, except you. Public schools. That's what did it for me. No, there's just
I mean, like
I went from sheltered to not sheltered real quick.
Mhm.
But
yeah, I'm just saying there's usually a big mockery around how terrible public school education is. But with the contrast.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think like we were talking about earlier, it was like, well, it's 50% this and it's 50% that. Public school can be really great for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah. So,
question for you. Are you ready?
Here we go. Oh, wait, I got to tell you. So I've now transformed that belief. So I was thinking I need to teach this belief to Bernie Sanders because he has a problem with like billionaires and stuff. If you follow him much or any of his
I don't.
I think he's like mostly a pretty smart guy, but he like for some reason he thinks you should be capped at like $1 billion or $2 billion, which like I just don't see the logic in it when he seems like a pretty sound guy for the most part and has a lot of great ideas.
I mean, that'd be cool if I was capped at $2 billion.
Yeah, but like if you could make like $1 trillion, like you'd be like, well, oh, sorry, that's the cutoff. Sorry, we're gonna distribute that to the rest of you anyway. So
I'm on Bernie Sanders.
I think
Bernie, I'm on your team. Let me get a $2 billion. And
his idea is just that the wealthy, it's like hoarders. They're like, oh, people say it's so bad if somebody hoards all their stuff in their house and makes a disgusting home. But when the rich hoard trillions and trillions of dollars, we're like, wow, they must be making good investments. So his idea is just that wealth should be out and not just hoarded in the bank. So once you hit a certain limit and all of your luxuries are met, put that money out in circulation, stop hoarding it, because now you're just doing a status thing of like, oh, look at, I've accumulated this in the bank.
I disagree. Like if you have, then that's for you, and you've paid so many taxes on that.
Oh,
which
crazy.
If you have literally like your tax dollars alone have built entire cities, and like the amount of people you had to have employed in the jobs, like that's your dividend. Like good for you. Like
not in investments, but it doesn't matter. Business owners.
Yeah, I mean they're like people always want to talk about how Amazon doesn't pay taxes. They don't. They generate taxes. Big difference. So when you sell this thing on Amazon.com, right? The city that so like Bozeman's building a warehouse. right now. So when I buy this, right, the city of Bozeman will get tax revenue off something I bought from Amazon.
Yeah.
That's great, right? And so Amazon's warehouses, like their big warehouses, generate like $25,000 to $50,000 a day in taxes for the city. And so like they're a huge tax revenue base for the city. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so they're paying taxes in that form. But I get what you're saying is like people who have like their income tax, they're paying 35% on
who cares if it's $1 billion? Yeah, what's 35% of it? That's so much tax money that you generate.
Right.
If you're that smart and you figured it out, then like good for you. Most billionaires don't just sit on their money. They're like, what can I do with this? What can I create? So I'm saying I agree with a lot of what he says. I think that's stupid. I don't see the logic in it. And then he's like justifies why he has 3 houses. He's like, well, I live in Vermont, but I'm a politician, so I had to be in DC. Like, great, good for you. Have 5 if that works out. Like, you've earned it. So like, anyway, this was my belief to erase that other one is the more you have, the more you can give. So like, if I can have more, I can give more. If I don't have anything, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So like, people that have more can do more. Like, if they're not doing
they can
it,
help more.
I like that.
And if it's not for good, then like it'll catch up with them eventually, or like someone will take care of it. Like if they're really like trying to terrorize the world. But it's most humans, I believe, are generally good and genuinely good. And I think the more you have, the more you can do with it. And if you're like a complete communist terrorist, like it's going to catch up with you, hopefully.
Yeah.
Anyway, David, Kyle had a question for you. I was trying to finish my point. Anyway, point's finished. You got a question, Kyle?
I do. What do you admire yourself for or about?
What do I admire about myself?
No, that works too.
That's what you asked, right?
Yeah.
And to make it in my head. Interesting question. Is there any sort of parameters that I should have with this, or just take it and run?
Take it and run.
I would say my most admirable quality is... That's tough because I definitely think that...
Not to other people, though, to yourself.
I know, that's what I was just going to say. It's hard for me to not like think of what other people would think of me or what I like about myself.
Well, that's what it is supposed to be. It's what you like about yourself. It doesn't matter if anyone thinks this is admirable or not. It matters if you do. Like, what do you... Okay. Kyle, do you mind if I like phrase it a little bit differently?
Please. So this is tied in.
A little more scope.
This is probably a little bit tied into like, David, you're egotistical.
Watch this though.
And
tell me,
David, you deserve more money at your job, right? Like, what are you good at?
Mm-hmm.
What do you like? I'm a fucking badass and I admire myself for this. What is it?
Kyle, tell me if this is like the wrong way to phrase your question, because this will help you pull the answer out of yourself. What do you see in yourself that you wish you could see in others?
It works.
Or like, what do you see in yourself that like you'd admire if you see it in someone else? Like, I don't know if that's the same. Like, we'll get to the same answer.
I don't want to say the word empathy because I think you can be empathetic, but also have a better understanding of people. But I would genuinely say my ability to relate and understand anyone that I come in contact with. I do find that I've had a crazy multitude of experiences from being homeschooled to living in New York to Alaska to everywhere. And I don't usually find people that I have issues with. In most cases, I would say I'm a very personable person and usually win over most of the people that I talk to. And I think that comes with an understanding and also creating a space that allows for...
Can we pause there? When you say win over, you mean like that, like they get to show them their true selves.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think I create a space that allows for people to genuinely show their true colors. And the amount of times I've met people in my entire life that are like, I just can talk so freely with you, or I feel like myself, or you've created a safe space, is unmatched. And that is the thing that I have always wanted. Like, that's something that I didn't always have growing up. I didn't always feel safe or comfortable in who I was and what I did and what my visions were. And for so many people to come and tell me that they've made a realization in my presence, or that they just can be who they want to be and around me, I think is something that not many people can relate to, or not many people have that ability to pull out or create such a safe environment for. And that's something that I'm extremely proud of and that I want to continue to do. And I think that ties into what I want to do with my life and creating experiences, because it's more than just what they're like. It's understanding who they are and how to make that experience around what makes them feel safe and comfortable. And I don't think many people can step out of their own preconceived notions or prejudices to do that. But I don't know. Again, I think I've befriended people from every political group, every statue of life. I don't think there's many people that I've ever been like, I can't find something I like about you.
What a cool like way to think about it. And whether it's the way you think about it or whether it's reality, doesn't really matter.
As we've already,
because it's reality.
confirmed.
It's reality to you.
Yeah.
But
However,
to be able to relate to people like that is like, what else is important in life? You know, it's like that's awesome.
It's not about what people say or what they do. It's how the taste you left in their mouth or the feeling of what their presence was. And I think that's what my superpower is.
Yeah. That's cool.
Leaving a good taste, which is kind of like my whole image. Maybe that should be my logo, leaving a good taste.
Yeah, that's cool.
What's your guys's?
I thought you were going to call it pouring my heart out, because you said I want to pour my heart into this, and I was like, no pun intended. I just didn't say it.
It's a good one too. I was gonna say uncorking joy, but
My strongest quality, in which we're not answering because this isn't our interview, is to hold back from all the stupid jokes I had to say the whole time you were saying that.
Let it out.
It took heart.
This is a safe space.
It took heart. No, because I think you genuinely were saying that. I was like, I had like 6 dumb things I could say, but they were just jokes. But
yeah.
It took grit, but I held them in.
I got another one.
Hit it.
Okay, ready? Okay, so when you think about like your full potential in life,
Okay.
so like what could you possibly do at the peak potential of your life? And you put all your kind of resources and your energy and put it all together.
Like,
right?
what's my best case scenario down the road kind of thing?
Yeah, like it's going to change, right?
Of course.
It's going to evolve because you're going to learn new things in 2 years and 5 years and 10 years. But where do you think you stand right now on meeting your full potential? Like, where's the scale on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, where are you at?
I think I'm at a really pivotal point in my life. I don't think maybe it's turning 30, maybe it's because I just ran the marathon, anything like that. But I genuinely feel like I've built up so much ammunition from being one of the youngest certified SOMs to getting my WSET2 to making this company millions that I feel
WSET2, what's that?
Wine and spirits experts in teaching. It's just another test, and I took them both at once and crushed it, passed with merit. Hit all of these metrics that most sommeliers hit when they're in their 30s and 40s, and I'm one of the younger people that's ever in it. And I truly feel like I've built up so much shit that I'm ready to just put together now. Like, I feel like indirectly I've been building so many pieces and they're all just coming to make this puzzle. So that's a funny question, because I'm like, my potential I know is 10, 11, 12, 99, but right now I'm at like 6 or 7. And I say that because I love the experience that I've already gotten, and I know I've crushed some really big metrics, but I know I have huge waves to make, and those last 3-4 points are going to be like a little Mount Everest to get over.
Mm.
And I think 7's already a lot higher than anyone my age should be at, but I do feel equipped to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And don't shy away from getting the rest of the way there.
Cool.
7 out of 10 or 7 out of 100?
7 out of 10, but 99 is the end goal. But like, just saying, once I get to 10, the limits.
Yeah, I got you.
I just do feel like this is like, I don't know. I literally running that marathon, I had 4 hours to think about it, and I was like, we're balls to the wall. We're going in. Like, I've done a lot to build up to this point, and now I'm ready to show for it. So, I don't know. I feel like action's in order now.
Cool.
Which is why I give it a 7. How long have we been recording for?
A long time.
Oh, yeah, it's 7:30. But to touch on the actual marathon day, because I do want to talk about that experience, that was absolutely crazy, with the whole city coming alive and high-fiving all the little children along the way, and the signs and the activity of it. And this is my segue of saying everyone should run a marathon and come to New York City to watch it. It was hands down one of the best experiences of my life. I just talked about everything building up to race day. I thought I should touch on the actual day itself.
What was the time
that I ran it in?
Yeah.
4 hours, 12 minutes, and 15 seconds. And I hit a PR in every single 1 mile, 5K, 10K, half marathon. Crushed it. And at mile 24, I helped pick up this woman that fell over and limped her to the med tent. And she only spoke French, which I speak, and I was able to help her. And that's probably when I cried the most. One of the most impactful parts was helping someone else during it.
Okay, so besides this marathon, this is one of Kyle's questions. I can't really come up with questions off the, like, I can only ask questions as they arise, like in conversation, but it's hard for me to just.
He sucks at this.
No, I don't. I just like, I like to have like natural, like normal human, like normal conversations, not like fucking job interview questions at the end. So, but I'll try to be fucking weird.
It's good. It's picking at the brain.
What's, because this is one of Kyle's questions. What's the most important thing that's ever happened to you? And you can't say run the marathon. Because you already said that was like one of the most impactful, but I want to know, like, besides that, because obviously there's many important or impactful things before that.
I mean, losing a parent obviously was crazy at a young age, but different to you, I didn't have that many memories of it. But honestly, losing our Aunt EP was probably one of the most life-altering experiences of my life, because it was truly someone that raised me from conception to the adult I wanted to be, and someone that was always there that I didn't expect to be gone so quickly. And that changed because I felt like it almost felt like I needed to embody everything that she was. And like everything I had been admiring up until that point, I was like, now it's my legacy. Now I want to make her proud, be that person, be that moment. And you would think losing a parent would be that, but it genuinely was losing Dad's sister, because she kind of filled that void and was that person that I always wanted to impress, to be proud of. And that's why I still send out holiday cards, because she was the one that, when I was in college and didn't think anyone was thinking of me, she'd send that card. So I still send cards to everyone, like for every holiday and stuff. And it was important in that, I don't know, it gave me like a deeper purpose of not financials, not what my career is. It was kind of a shocking moral point in my life when I was like, I just want to be a better person like she was, like insane with charities, always working to volunteer with people with disabilities and be at every single one of our sporting events. And again, make sure everyone had a Halloween bag of candy, even if they weren't in town. And it happened at a time where I was so fixated on where I have to be in life that it kind of brought me back to like being human and remembering like importance of family and stuff like that. So honestly, that was one of the most important times for my life.
Yeah, like to touch on who this woman was and is, like she would like give us Halloween candy as young adults. I'm like, oh, I made you a bag. She like give you a little bag with candy, but like every holiday, like, oh, you want to like you gotta come up for Easter, like you gotta come up for like Thanksgiving. What are you doing? What are you doing for your birthday? Are you coming up? I made you a cake. And then she'd be like, oh, are you coming for dinner tonight? She's like, oh, I made a cucumber salad for you because I know you like cucumbers, like just for me, cucumbers and onions. Like, but I don't know, it was like in her DNA.
Yeah. And every single person that ever met her would say that exact estimate. Like she had the biggest heart in the world that filled every single person she met. And I was just like, I don't know. Important to remind people that they're that loved, and that changed to, like I was saying, I want to create a safe space. Like she was that for me. Anytime I wanted to run away from the farm or be sad, like I would run to EP's house. Timmy or the people on the farm were bullying me, like I would go to EP's house. Like she was my safe space.
Tim, you were bullying your brother?
I was looking at the camera for that one. No.
Remember that closet I was in? It's because of him.
Where he was hiding. Just trying to prove a point. But she also, I would say another thing, because you got me on a tangent of thinking about her now. She also like taught everyone that you can be all those things and still be witty and like.
Oh my God.
She's like the wit and the stuff she would say was like, was sharp.
It was like so fucking smart.
That's awesome.
And she would say it with such a calm, straight face that you wouldn't even know she was joking. And then you just realized it was the most thought out and witty thing ever.
Like, fuck,
Truly an
this
icon.
woman just KO'd me. I didn't even realize it.
No, seriously. I feel bad for all the people.
And she made me a cake.
Yeah. You'd be like, well,
and probably a banner and pictures and yeah. Thoughtful doesn't even do justice.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, Rod, got any more questions for the job interview?
What are you most afraid of right now in life?
I think everyone's a little afraid of the unknown. Change has always been something that scared me in the past, but I think just not knowing what exactly could happen wrong or what exactly is up next. So like maybe I want to move to Spain. I don't think New York City is in my life for the next few years. Like I think I've crossed that chapter and I've spent my 20s there. And
have you been to Spain?
No. I don't speak any Spanish, but that's
you never visited?
No. But they have the best wine academies and the program that I want. And
you're going to love it.
Every single time
Spain is sick, dude.
Every time I've had this feeling of unknown and fear, it has turned into the best experience of my life. And that was...
There's no bad parts of Spain.
So, but it's that fear of what if I don't find my people? What if I financially drop off and this company goes even further and I could have secured more millions?
Like, then just leave.
Yeah, but it's that fear of unknowing. And, you know, not exactly having a backup plan, but I don't think I would do it if I had a backup plan. I'm the type of person that needs to fully dive in and know that failure is not an option. That's how I did New York City. That's why I worked so many jobs and $8 slice for years. And that's why I fucking love New York City now and have my gym and my people and my everything set up. And now as I'm getting comfortable, I'm ready to throw sheets to the wind and see what's next. But
no, I think you're right, David. That's a rational fear. Why don't you just stay in New York City and be safe? And then you could just like it probably wouldn't have been fun anyway. So like, you're right. That's good to have that fear. Why don't you just stay safe and like don't
I'm
take any?
only
No,
human.
I know, but I'm trying to de-logic the stupidity in that statement because like, why don't you just stay in New York?
Trust me.
Why don't you be comfortable? Like, put on a few extra pounds, relax, and like,
It's not
don't
going to
worry.
hold me back. But he said, "What's the biggest fear?" And I think the unknown is
Yeah,
the
but I'm
thing
just trying
that
to let you
scares me.
I'm just trying to let you see the no offense, but stupidity in that because like imagine how scary it'd be if you because my biggest fear is the opposite is like
Staying for too
doing
long.
the safe thing and
Yeah.
not taking a chance.
Well, that's honestly probably more of the fear, and that's probably what's driving me. Honestly, the thought of sticking to comfortability, and that's what I see in the people that are still in a hometown or still in South Carolina. Like every chapter that I've closed obviously is still open a little because I love the people there and connect with them, but the scariest thing is seeing the people that are still there or that stuck to it or that never left.
And like at the same time maybe you do, that might be like where they need to be or what their life like is right now. So it's not like
outside looking in is, you never really know what's going on, but maybe honestly I redirect my answer. I change it. Mine is sticking to what I know because that's literally what's driving me to leave New York City.
now we're talking.
Do it. Spain's
So,
awesome.
that was a good persuasion. I kudos to that.
Salud. That's what they would say in Spain. What advice would you give yourself from 3 years ago?
3 years ago was 2021. That's when I started the wine job. I would not tell myself to get out of the wine job, even though it was the worst thing for my mental health and everything, because that was the best struggle that I ever put myself through. Genuinely being on the streets and struggling through that and working for the best distributor opened my eyes like crazy. So you would think I would tell myself to make better decisions, but honestly, that taught me so much. So 3 years ago, I'd probably say stop holding back on experiences, because there were so many times that I was like, oh, I got to save up and make sure that I'm building this comfortability thing. And I don't know where that money was, but I can think of the concerts that I missed out on and the trips I didn't take with my friends that talk about the fun memories they had. And I don't know. I feel like that's exactly what well-off people say. Don't hold back.
Like you were working more than you should have.
Like I was worrying too much about what my bank account would look like the next day. And now none of that money is even relevant. And I should have just enjoyed and not taken so many nights in, or I wasn't taking them in for my own benefit. I was taking them in to thinking it was gonna financially benefit me, but that 26 money is not really that important. Like, I think I held back on a lot of experiences because I was starting that job and really trying to make a name for myself in that industry, which now I've completely pivoted from. So just not taking myself too seriously. I think that's my long-winded way of saying that.
Where are you holding back now that you don't think you should be?
Not asking for a raise.
Or figured that out.
Our work is done.
Kinda though. I don't know. Honestly, this marathon was really opened my eyes to not holding back, so I don't feel like that right now, but I'm sure there's some aspects. There's always room for improvement. Maybe thinking too much about the new year and how I have to plan it out for 2025 when I could start doing things now.
Yeah, I mean, it's right around the corner.
Yeah. But that kind of like delayed, or like, oh, that's the right time, And what's the right time for any of it?
Nothing.
Dude, this is like we did our second published podcast ever with David last Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So it's deja vu.
1 year in the making.
Yeah. Just throwing that out there. Totally irrelevant to everything you just said.
Full circle.
Because you just said New Year, so I was thinking,
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe relevant. All right, we got anything else? Anything else you want to broadcast into the ether? Forever recorded.
Where can people find you online? Where should we follow you? What's your OnlyFans?
Do you want
page?
them to find you? If you give us any links, we can put them in the bio.
In the bayou? In the bayou. We're going to put them in the swamp.
Yeah.
I honestly don't really have a social media presence at the
What
moment.
about your LinkedIn? You said your LinkedIn is like on fire, bro.
Do you have LinkedIn? That's where you can see my interviews with celebrities and see my events.
Who's the coolest celebrity you've met?
Did you watch The Office?
Not really.
Andy Buckley is in The Office as David Wallace. He plays the CFO. And
I've never heard of either of those ladies.
that's the same person. Andy Buckley is his real name. David Wallace is his name on the show.
Exactly. My point exactly.
And he's a hilarious CFO. That was probably one of the funniest shows I ever did.
Yeah, but he was a nice person in person.
Yes. And his wife coached like Jennifer Aniston and Channing Tatum and all their roles and stuff. He has the most amazing stories.
I'm going to ask people that for the rest of my life now. Is he a nice person in person?
And David Tyree, the New York Giant who caught
on the helmet.
Yeah, helmet catch David Tyree was
2008, I think.
And Leonard Marshall was a really cool one. I've met a lot of Stanley Cup winners, like hockey players.
Nobody knows who they are.
In Canada, though, they're huge.
I know, but nobody knows who they are. The rest of the world.
Yeah. Those are the coolest ones for
I
me
don't
so
like
far.
I know Wayne Gretzky, that's all I know.
Matt Forte from the Chicago Bears.
Okay.
He was a big one too. But my LinkedIn, David Baldwin, 1995. Pretty direct.
Yeah, it's going to be posted. It's going to be posted in the bio.
In the bayou.
That's so funny.
I did not mean that. I did not.
No,
mean
I thought it's David Ball 1995. Like, that's legit.
Pretty direct. And my website will be launched pretty soon with my events and everything like that. But otherwise, that's it. You got to find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I don't use Instagram or any of the other ones.
And if you're listening to this a year after it came out, I will have gone back and put his website in the bio.
In the
so
bio.
You can see it.
Mm.
So that's what we do.
And I'll probably make some TikTok videos for my wine stuff because that's what sells.
TikTok.
Yeah,
Mm.
TikTok.
I don't know what that is. I've never used it. I know what it is, but I've never used it.
So I'll get you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, that's it. Nothing else.
That's it.
Closing out.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, guys.